Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A quorum being present, I will call to order this meeting of the Debenture Committee of the City of Toronto. We have only one item of business to do this morning, but before that, I will ask, first of all, if there are any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act on the part of any of the members of the committee present. I'm just looking on the screen here. I don't see anybody. I see all people shaking their heads in the negative, so I thank you for that. May I acknowledge, and I'm not using the proper words because I don't have I do have the script in front of me now. Thank you. And this is meeting number 9 of the Debenture Committee, and we're using WebEx technology, so the members are gathered virtually in place. And I would ask for your patience with delays and technical issues. Members of the committee can observe the meeting on YouTube. And although we're in different locations and meeting remotely today, the Debenture Committee acknowledges the land that we're meeting on, and this was the part I was going to do, but I've done it so many times now respectfully that I pretty much can do it without benefit of the wording. But in order to be appropriately respectful, we are meeting on the lands of the traditional territories of many, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. And these same lands are now homes to many First Nations, diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I've covered the declarations of interest, of which there were none, and I would then move on to ask for a motion to confirm the meeting of the Debenture Committee held on November the 6th, 2020. And that is so moved by Councillor Crawford. And I will then ask for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have 2 items on the agenda. The first is the main item, which is the authority to issue a debenture. There's a report that has been circulated to the members of the committee from the Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer with recommendations. Before I ask a couple that I almost without fail do, and there's the motion in front of you, the recommendation from staff. May I see if there are any questions from other members of the committee of staff on this matter? In particular, I would turn to, because the other 2 people are staff, as it were, I would ask if Councillor Crawford first, or if either questions of staff.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have one question. I probably know the answer to this, but I thought it's on page 4 of the report, and I'll just read this, and if I can just maybe get a comment on this. It said that the interest rate of the reopened bond is lower than the bond's coupon rate, resulting in a bond premium, and that the excess proceeds from selling the bonds at a premium are going to be deposited into the sinking fund for repayment of the principal at maturity. So I just want to get a general sense what that means, and are there any numbers attached to that on sort of savings? But it just caught me as, again, I'm pretty sure I know what it means, but just in a layman's terms, what happened with this?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor, what happens is because there is a differential in the interest rate, we have a better interest rate for the bond that's issued, that we're voting on today, than the reopening of the debenture that was issued in 2019. That interest rate differential creates a premium, and that premium then gets paid to the city. The city, in actual fact, will put it in a sinking fund to offset the repayment amounts when it becomes mature.
And I'm just curious, what sort of, when you talk about amounts, is this a substantial amount, or what does that look like?
So I know Randy is on the line. I'm going to ask him to quantify it. He has the specific numbers.
Okay.
Oh, good morning, and through you, Mr. Mayor. The premium paid on a $100 bond, it was $107. So 7 times 130 million comes to approximately about $8 million in premium that we would receive. So it actually reduces the amount that we have to contribute to the sinking fund. That $8 million gets held in the sinking fund, but it reduces the annual impact through the years as we contribute over to the sinking fund by $8 million spread out over that 20-year period.
So it's not a small amount of money, of course. It's a reasonable size amount of money. And that's just based on the better interest rates we're getting on this new bond.
That's correct. Because it's an older bond and we're reopening, that higher level of coupon interest that's paid to investors, investors are willing to pay a higher amount, that premium, to which actually drives down our overall cost. So there's calculations in the bond market that they do to get that equivalent rating and the price that they have to pay. So, but there was quite a few people lined up for this and were willing to pay that premium to get those bonds.
Perfect. Okay, great. That's the only questions I had, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. I just have a couple which are often the usual ones that I ask to make sure that we have on the spoken record as well as in the written record, because you've covered this mostly in the report that's accompanying the recommendations here. First of all, to confirm that this reopening and extension of this, the amount of this bond, this debenture it leaves us still in compliance with the council directed ratio with respect to well, both the total amount of debt authorized for the year, but also our ratio.
So thank you for the question. So I can confirm that it's within the $1 billion threshold that council approved us to finance during 2020. But also, in addition to that, we do comply with the policy of maintaining a debt ratio of 15% of the tax base. And in addition, the amount that we pay in interest is totally accounted for in our 2020 budget.
Thank you. And just to go on from there, I had raised with you offline, and I just thought it would be worthwhile putting on the record. Well, you know, if there was and maybe you might just address the demand for both green bonds, our green bonds, and for green bonds generally. But I'd raised with you, you know, why we wouldn't take the opportunity to you know, seek to sell even more of this product, if I can call it that, this instrument in the marketplace. And you had, obviously, it was a very good answer to that question, and maybe you could just share that for the record as well.
Yeah, so two components to that. The first one is the demand for our green bond. The amount, there was a 4 times oversubscription for our $130 million bond, which was exceptional. That I will just add a couple of extra pieces of information that we're proud of. That allowed us to, in actual fact, tighten the spread. And that tightening of the spread in actual fact was 2 to 3 basis points lower than what a conventional bond would have been, which actually saves us about $520 million over the 20-year period. So again, to the councillor's question earlier, not an insignificant amount of money. In addition to that, what we do when we go out and finance our projects, they are projects that are already completed. And in order for us to ensure that we're within the green bond framework, we also have to look at the term of an asset's life. And we have to match the asset's life with the term of the bond. So it is about juggling and ensuring that we have sufficient projects that fall within the green bond framework, but also have a 20-year useful life that we can amortize not only the bonds, but the asset over. And so it is a careful juggling of green projects that have an asset life of 20 years. And when we looked at that, we were confident with what we put forward, but we weren't able to expand any further. Plus, we were right at the cusp of our $1 billion threshold.
Okay, that's a very complete answer. And I knew a good thing when I saw it, and I just wanted to make sure that we took maximum advantage of that, which it appears we did within the context of both available projects to finance that were green and our debt ceiling, our self-imposed debt ceiling for this year, and so on. Okay, and so in every other respect, then I think you've covered that this is within the policies of the city, and so we can proceed safe in the knowledge that we're operating within our debt. So, if there are no other questions, Chris, do you have any questions of staff?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I'm familiar with the report.
Okay. So if there are no others, are there members wishing to speak to the item? Councillor Crawford, do you want to speak?
Well, I just again, as I'm sure you'll acknowledge, Mr. Mayor, just thank Heather and Chris and the entire team and the work you've been doing over the last year. We've reached our target, almost $1 billion, and it's been a challenging, difficult year in some respects. So I just wanted to, thank the entire team for the work they've been doing and continue to do and help support our financial well-being at the City of Toronto. So again, just complete thanks for the work that your entire team's been doing.
Chris, any words from you?
Well, I mean, you know, Mr. Mayor, that Heather and I joined the organization about 2.5 years ago, roughly about the same time, and I was afforded the opportunity to be on the interview panel that led to Heather being chosen. And CFO Treasury is an incredibly important function within the organization. And you know, I just feel that not just that we made a great decision in hiring Heather, but you know, what she brings to our table, you know, is great strategic thinking and, you know, wonderful confidence in the finance field, and a genuine enthusiasm, not for just, you know, those things that are green, but also the social issues that you know, that we wrestle with. And as you know, one of the previous bonds did have a social orientation, and which is really what you look for in a senior leader in an organization, is someone that's, you know, well-rounded in their view of the world, and not just bring financial skills, but, you know, all the things that we know you, Mr. Mayor, and Council are committed to, and that is addressing, you know, major equity issues or inequities in our community, and so we can, through finance, you know, do the right things and support this community in a variety of ways. And I just know, speaking for myself, we're very lucky to have her here.
Well, thank you, Chris. And may I just add to that? Exactly. I mean, I couldn't have done better, and I won't try. But Heather, I think, you know, every great team has to have a good leader, and you have a great team. And you, some of them get called upon to answer the odd question at this committee, but, you know, they mostly operate out of sight. But if people understood the incredible importance of this committee and of the team that has to do with our financings that we do. And, you know, the thing I'm repeating most often, and I will say to all of the people that are involved in this, how proud I am of it. And I repeated it again this morning in a year-end interview. It will find its way into every year-end interview I do. Is throughout all of this, including some of the innovation we've done with green bonds and social bonds and so on. We have all, but as a testament to the overall financial management of the city, our credit rating was reaffirmed in the middle of a pandemic when others in the country were being downgraded. And with a lot of complimentary comments, including about the financial management. And while I will take, and Councillor Crawford will take some small, tiny degree of the credit for that, because we're involved with this too, you and your team deserve a lot of the credit. And the very fact that we would have any bond issue at any that is 4 times oversubscribed is a huge compliment to the city. And that's something I intend to work into all of my interviews going forward, because I know it was 4 times oversubscribed. But, you know, those are the kinds of evidence points that really point to strong leadership of the kind that Chris talked about. And so I just want to say to your team and to you as the leader of the team, thank you for a year's work well done. Because I think we have, if you look at, it almost seemed as if, and I think it's almost true, that every subsequent debenture issuance had a rate and a series of circumstances in the market that were better than the one before. And I think that in the middle of a crisis, the worst crisis probably that's been faced in generations, that is quite something. And so thank you very much for that. And, you know, before we get too carried away with all the self-congratulations to ourselves, we've got a lot to do next year. And yes, and I'll make sure you have the last word on this now that we've all paid tribute. So please go ahead.
So thank you for all your kind words. And I do have to emphasize the team. And something that hasn't been mentioned is the amount of effort and investment of time in investor relations. And the investor relations piece is so incredibly important. And what we've been able to do because of the strong team, we have in actual fact expanded our investors that now include Asia, Middle East, Europe, as well as obviously North America. And that in itself, we celebrated it during the Green Bond because we finally actually broke into the Asian market. And having those Asian investors in the primary market were exceptionally important. So that speaks volumes to not only what the team has done, but how the team represents Toronto on an international basis. So just a big shout out to the entire team, because as Councillor Crawford mentioned, this has been obviously a very challenging year, and we've had 5 exceptional, successful debentures. And you are exactly right. Every single time we came to this debenture committee this year, we were saying it was the lowest cost for the city. And we obviously took advantage of the financial markets, but the investors had to come, and the investors came because there was an exceptional set of circumstances where our team really made the effort in connecting with investors.
Well, thank you for those comments, Heather, and thank you again for your leadership and that of the whole team. I wish I could sort of name them all off here, but then I would leave somebody out, but we'll find an occasion to do that. And of course, we'll be continuing with our work in 2021. So may I ask the clerk to display the recommendations so that I can then ask for a motion to approve the staff recommendations. So there are the recommendations to authorize the issuance of this reopening and modification to this debenture. And I'll ask for a motion to adopt the staff recommendations, which I will see from Councillor Crawford. And I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The second item of business today is to enact the bylaws, which is item DB 9.2. I have a motion to introduce and enact Bill 1066, and I'll ask the clerk to display a motion that will be moved by me. And I'll read it, that the Debenture Committee pass and declare as a bylaw Bill 1066 prepared for the December 14th, 2020 meeting of the Debenture Committee. Are there any questions of staff on this? Any comments anybody wants to make? Okay, well then I'll call the question and ask for all those in favor to please raise their hand. Any opposed? The motion is carried. I also have a motion to introduce and enact the confirming bill, and I will ask the clerk to display that motion, which I will move. And I'll read it, that the Debenture Committee pass and declare as a bylaw a confirmatory bill to confirm the legislative proceedings of the Debenture Committee acting under delegated authority at meeting 9 on December the 14th, 2020. Are there any questions of staff on this? Any comments? All right, in that case, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? There aren't any. The motion is carried unanimously. That concludes our business for today. So again, we will say thanks and the best of the season. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, with anticipation of even greater things. I won't say that we expect it to keep up the record of having every debenture, because we're getting to the point where the interest rates are so low now. There may be nowhere left to go. But having said all that, we can keep up the good work and keep leading the market in terms of our both creditworthiness and in terms of the ability to have people enthusiastic about our debt issuance. So I thank you very much again, and I'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.